Labrynth is definitely one of the most popular decks being used on the ladder right now, but one particular version of the deck that I came across during the Duelist Cup and wanted to test for myself was a Dogmatika mix. I hadn't really considered too much the possibility of mixing these two decks together, but I had it used against me during the Duelist Cup and it seemed pretty interesting, so I did want to test it out. I played around with it. I really liked the amount of utility that the extra deck gives you, and it really did expand your ability to go second very well. I feel like Nadir's Servant and things like Dogmatika, this is a fantastic card no matter what turn you're going. Nadir's Servant was a really powerful card going second because not only did you search for stuff and generate resources, you also get the pop cards your opponent controls, or you got to draw additional cards if you're going first, whatever. So I really did like the utility that the extra deck brought to the deck in the form of Nadir's Servant and Dogmatika Punishment, so I thought I'd like to share that, right? I don't know if this is the best way of playing the Dogmatika Labrynth mix. There's not exactly a ton of different results out there, and after playing around with it, I sort of felt most comfortable with this. Playing between 1 to 3 copies of Ecclesia, it is entirely up to you, and 1 to 3 copies of Ariana is up to you as well. It sort of depends on where you want to dedicate your normal summon, if it comes to it, because again, Lab is so common that Ecclesia's special summon effect wasn't live nearly as often as I thought it would be. So you do often find yourself using your normal summon on Ecclesia because Labrynth is just everywhere. But against any other deck, you can special summon this card for free, and it's fucking baller, right? But anyways, I'm not going to waste too much time here at the start. We are going to do a card for card deck profile at the end of the video, so stick around for that to get to grips with how the cards interact and what they all actually are to build it yourselves. But I do have a couple of games showing off some of the strengths, some of the weaknesses, some of the plays and combos and things, just so you have an idea of what exactly it is you're getting into. So if you're interested in this or anything else that we do here, feel free to subscribe to the channel to catch more videos as they're coming out, and like this video if you enjoyed watching this, or maybe you're just a fan of Dogmatika and or Labrynth. So subscribe, like the video. You can of course find links in the description to our active Discord, our Twitter page, Facebook page, TikTok, all of that fun stuff. If you're on any of those platforms, you can follow us there as well. Takes 2 seconds. We put content on those as well. You know, doesn't hurt. But yes, I'm not going to take up too much time here. Let's get into the gameplay. Alrighty, getting into the number 1 here. Going first, we're going to be showing off some of the more basic plays here. Starting off with Ariana, grabbing ourselves Big Welcome Labrynth. Going to use the coup clock here, setting the Big Welcome so we can flip it up and immediately use its effect. Being met with an Ash Blossom though, so Big Welcome unfortunately not resolving for ourselves there. Now, we did have Nadir's Servant in hand, so you may be looking at this. Now we're going to go for Nadir's Servant. You may well have looked at that as a spectator and thought to yourself, maybe it would have been smarter to do that the other way around to beat the Ash Blossom, and you may be right. But ultimately, it's not as if we're losing a ton of value. We do get to add Ecclesia to hand, we get the Sankarura from the extra deck to the graveyard to draw 1, and we draw in the Welcome Labrynth, so it ends up kind of sort of working out. We snap a card out of our hand basically because the Ash Blossom is gone, and because he has no Ash, we're able to resolve Maxi with no hassle, and Welcome Labrynth is able to establish a, I believe, Lady Labrynth on our field fairly easily. So in the main phase 1 for our opponent here, they're playing some sort of Kashtira deck at first glance, although we're going to see that that's going to change quite very soon. I do hit the Kashtira with an Imperm here because again I thought they were playing Kashtira, but turns out they're playing Labrynth as well. This deck is literally everywhere right now. He chains his Lady Labrynth to my Infinite Impermanence. That stops us from using the effective Lady Labrynth at the Silver Castle, which actually leaves us quite vulnerable. That's very dangerous, although we do get to start drawing additional cards here, probably more than what he expected us to be drawing. We're going to go for Big Welcome Labrynth now in the graveyard, banishing it to get rid of that lady, sending it back to the hand. We're going to now draw a card off of the Lady Ariana, setting it to the field. They're going to normal summon Mudora, and then swing in with their Fenrir to take out our Ariana. So we generated some decent advantage there. +3 is hella nice, and now we have a live Welcome Labrynth set on our field. We're going to go for Ecclesia this time. Ecclesia grabbing us Dogmatika Punishment. We're now going to flip up Welcome Labrynth here. That's going to be met with yet another usage of their Lady Labrynth to chain block ours, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. We're now going to summon out Lovely Labrynth of the Silver Castle to the field. They're going to go for a Big Welcome of their own. We're going to chain block them by using our Lady Labrynth's effect to set a back row card from our deck to the field. So we're going to set a Destructive Daruma. This is such a good card, right? Hang on. This is such a good card. You absolutely must play this because this is your out to Pearly. And it's also, just generally speaking, an amazing card, right? So we set that to the field to generate a shitload of pressure. They're going to send a card back to hand using the Lovely here, activating Lovely and Fenrir's effects. They're going to banish our Lovely Labrynth, which is a problem. They're going to also destroy our face down. We set the tactics just because we wanted our Lady Labrynth to be protected, even if he did some sort of chain shenanigans and stopped us from setting an additional card. Unfortunately, he does end up popping it, but that's fine. We're going to swing in to take out his lovely Ecclesia, crashing into the Medora to take care of them both. I don't want that Medora on the board in case he does any crazy sort of Link or Exceed shenanigans. We're going to set 2 and pass. We have a massive amount of advantage here based upon the back row card specifically that we have set. We allow the Fenrir to do its thing because we know it's not going to be of any sort of consequence. We flip up our Dogmatika punishment, targeting the Fenrir. They're now going to summon out Lady Labrynth here in chain, but that's fine. I can take advantage of that. I'm going to send a Skull Knight to the graveyard, triggering off, of course, the Welcome Labrynth in the graveyard. They're going to return both copies of Welcome Labrynth back to our deck, as well as a card of their own, their lovely Labrynth, so they can recycle it later in the duel. And that does, however, leave in our graveyard the Skull Knight, which was a curious decision. We just banish the Skull Knight, target the lady, destroy that right away. 3k to the face here, and we're holding on to our lady just to sort of see what he's up to. Putting the additional monster on board and putting additional pressure on isn't really super valuable in this particular matchup. They do summon out 2 monsters going into the Muckraker. This is when we decide to go for the Daruma Cannon. They're going to use their Keldo now, I guess, because they can. It doesn't really matter. But basically what the Daruma Cannon does is it flips every monster on the field face down, and any monsters that are left face up are now sent to the grave. So because he's used his normal summon, and I know that all of his Kashteras are in grave, I'm fairly confident that shutting down the Muckraker is going to pretty much shut down his turn. He does have the Lady Labrynth in the hand though, so he summons it out to the field to act as some sort of defensive wall. But again, I'm not too worried about that. We're going to flip up our lady, swing into taking his out. He's going to chain the big welcome, shuffling his back to hand actually instead of mine, which does make a lot of sense because he can just bring it out again right after we attack, and now he's got it live. But that does mean our thrust is live. So because we have thrust and all of these other back row cards, our opponent is way behind in terms of card advantage. And in a Labrynth matchup, you know that card advantage is what determines the winner and the loser. It's not whoever can push for lethal the fastest or whoever does the crazier combo. It's all about numbers. It's all about card advantage, and we were simply winning massively, and the thrust was what tipped us over the edge. So there you go, really good game. Let's get in the game 2. Alrighty, this one's a lot faster, so it is here. We're going to start off with our Ecclesia. Ecclesia searching our deck for Dogmatika Punishment. Dogmatika Punishment is an incredibly powerful card. We are going to go for Torby here, setting big welcome to the field, set 3 and pass. So a pretty intimidating defensive wall here for sure. They're going to go Pot of Extravagance here. Of course, it is going to be the mirror match because I'm facing nothing but Labrynth at the minute. We're going to go for Imperm on the Ariana. There's not a ton of great Imperm targets in the mirror match. Ariana is, however, one of them. So we are going to shut that shit down. They're going to go for this Chandelier now. Chandelier dropping itself in another card to set Big Welcome Labrynth to the field. Big Welcome Labrynth is, of course, a threat. And they're going to mirror us and setting 4 and passing. We are going to go for Lovely Labrynth. We make a small mistake here. So basically, we have the ability to snipe several of the back row cards. However, I picked the wrong one to begin with. I picked the Big Welcome, because in my little reptile brain, I thought Big Welcome is a powerful card. Therefore, if I destroy it, it'll be less to deal with, right? And that makes sense. However, what I fail to recognize is that now that Big Welcome is in the graveyard, if I attempt to target his Ariana in any way, he's simply going to bounce it back to hand and my effects are going to fizzle. And I realized as soon as I targeted, so that's why we didn't flip out Dogmatika Punishment here. We didn't use it to send an Entis to pop any back or anything like that. We're holding on to it so that we can maybe dance around that Big Welcome a little bit. We are going to go for Lovely Labrynth. Turns out one of the face downs is Skill Drain. Unfortunately, so we are going to try and negate the skill drain by targeting Ariana with Infinite Permanence. Luckily, it's in that same column. They are going to go for Big Welcome, just like we predicted. They're going to return the big Ariana to the hand. That's when we're going to flip up Dogmatika Punishment. So Dogmatika Punishment, we're going to use that, destroying the Ariana, sending, of course, Entis to the graveyard. Everything else is going to resolve, of course, except for our Lovely Labrynth. Now we're able to use Entis in the grave to pop the skill drain, and Torby is going to special summon itself back out to the field. There's one other mistake that we make as well here that I do want to bring attention to. So getting rid of Big Welcome was the first, and there you go, and our opponent very, very easily scooped. They didn't have any resources left. We were able to rebuild our whole board, and they weren't for it. So again, mirror matches all around. The mirror match is quite often just determined by card advantage, and you can see how utilizing the extra deck and Dogmatika Punishment and everything was able to put us in a winning position there. So yeah, again, you could just run Dogmatika Punishment in a regular lab deck, which you definitely could do, but having the Dear Servant and the Ecclesia and everything like that gives you much easier access, much more consistent access to what is essentially one of the most powerful tools in your deck. So let's get into game 3. Alright, and for the last one, what we're going to be doing is something slightly different. I did have another replay lined up, but it was a bit lackluster. The thing about Labrynth is that many players, whenever you reveal that you're playing Labrynth, don't typically want to stick around very long, and it becomes very difficult to get a decent game and decent replay out of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you live how it works, right? So we're going to go, of course, looking at the opening hand, pretty decent hand overall. We're going to go for Nadir Servant right off the bat. That's going to give us access to the Ecclesia, right? So we activate it because we're going first. If you're going second, you get access to all of these board breaking tools. You can pop any card in the field, pop a monster, pop a back row, do all of that. If you're going first, however, you can send Garura to draw a card. Nice little bit of card advantage there. So Nadir Servant replaces itself, grabs you the Ecclesia, right? Then Garura gives you +1. Decent card advantage. We draw on the Max C, there you go. Then we normal summon the Ecclesia. Ecclesia then will activate and we'll search our deck for Dogmatika Punishment, which is an incredibly powerful card. Or even Fleur de Lis, right? If you're in a position where Fleur de Lis is useful, you can use that, absolutely. You don't have to play Fleur de Lis, it's decent, it's kind of win more a little bit, but it's a nice card overall. And just like that, we went from 5 cards to 7, and we're in a really powerful position when it comes to card advantage. So this is a solid board. Now, is it invincible? No, right? Major board breakers, Evenly Matched, Lightning Storm, Heartless Everduster are all problematic cards, don't get me wrong. But again, you can only plan for so much, you can only prepare for so much. We definitely should have used this earlier. I don't know why I waited. Reasoning off the rip. I'm gonna go for Ash Blossom. I just want to see if they have anything. Got anything? You got something, sir? Okay. Okay, that's fine. Right, so Ash the Reasoning, right, that's fine. So Ash the Reasoning. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to activate the Max Aeon Resolution. Okay, Max Aeon Resolution. Got anything to say to that? Still nothing to say to that. Okay, so now we're going to go for Welcome Labrynth. Yeah. Yeah. We're actually going to play Lovely here. So I'm going to get super aggressive. I'm going to be very aggressive here. You maybe should have gone Lady to set up additional resources and sort of proc stuff off your back row and blah, blah, blah. But I'm going to be aggressive. I'm going to get super, I'm going to start pinning cards out of his hand and everything. So basically, as soon as he summons a monster to try and play through, we're going to go Dogmatika Punishment and fuck his whole day up, right? That is our plan. He's got 5 cards left in hand. He's playing a pale deck. So I'm assuming his deck is going to be very combo oriented. I'm going to be seeing a Ziaman here, or some sort of punk card, some sort of milling card, maybe Infernoids, who knows, but whatever he's playing, it's going to be focused on milling. It's Infernoid, yeah, Infernoid. Left arm offering, oh no. Definitely should have held on the Ash Blossom there then. Holy shit. Left arm offering, can I grab grass, right? He has to. We're at 32 cards, right? So he's going to mill about, what, 18 cards? Which, you know, is less than ideal, but it's not the worst thing in the world, right? He's going to mill 18, and he can only really do so much. Okay, mills. How many monsters did we mill? We milled Snow. Snow's a problem. Deviati is a bit of a problem. Okay, gonna banish 3 from grave. That's almost certainly going to be the Deviati. Yep, that is fine. Gonna summon it out to the field. This wipes the back row, doesn't it? It does. So we're going to imperm that. I don't think so. Imperm the Deviati. That's fine. Or the Deviati? Yeah, whatever. I don't know how to pronounce this shit. I'm going to assume that that's correct. End of the battle phase, they're going to swing into my Ecclesia. Fair enough. Taking out the Ecclesia. I maybe would have crashed into the lovely Labrynth and brought back Snow. Maybe bring back Snow, flip this face down, Snow into that, 29 over the lovely. I don't know why that's not what we did, but apparently it isn't. Fair enough. I fuck with it. Okay, so we do have the punishment. I guess I just use it now, right? Yeah, fuck it, let's use it now. targeting Devyari. We're now going to send a 5-headed dragon to the graveyard. We have 5-headed dragon in there so that we have enough. We have an extra deck monster big enough to basically get over anything, right? And that's the idea anyways. So we draw into Big Welcome. Good draw. We still have the Lovely to bring back any of the trap cards from our graveyard. So we're going to use that to bring back our Dogmatika punishment. Yep. Yes, sir. Big Welcome. We have Thrust in case he decides to try and use his Snow. If he tries to go for Snow, we can go for Thrust. There's the Snow. Gonna banish 7 cards from the graveyard here. That's totally fine. I'm A-okay with that. That's fine by me. Okay, Fairy Tail Snow. Then they're gonna use Fairy Tail Snow, of course, to flip our Lovely face down. And that's fine. Slightly annoying, but whatever, right? I don't really care that much. And it also makes my Thrust live, right? So it's actually kind of beneficial for me, if I'm being honest. So we get to grab any of these cards. Low-key, Nadir's Servant might actually be the way here. It might actually be better than Tactics. I'm not going to lie to you. You know what? Yeah, Nadir's Servant is in fact better. So we're going to add it to hand. We're going to activate Nadir's Servant here. We're going to send a card to the graveyard. So do I have another deck or graveyard to hand? That's good. Okay, so I could send Garura. I don't know if I really want to send Snow back to grave. So I think I might just send Garura. Yeah. No, I'm going to go for the Wind Pegasus, yeah. Sending the Pegasus, going to grab the Ecclesia. So by sending the Pegasus, we're going to protect ourselves, in essence, from his big Infernoids from wiping our board, right? We're going to discourage his Infernoids from wiping the board, because if he does, he's going to be punished for it. We're going to grab one of these cards, add it to hand. I don't think he's going to go into anything from the extra deck here. So I'm just going to grab Punishment. We have double Punishment. I don't think Punishment's once per turn, is it? It is once per turn, that's fine. It just means now we've got 2. So I can use one on this turn, and then I have one for my turn as well. Fleur-de-lis, I just don't see him doing anything based around the extra deck. I really don't. I just don't see it. He's got 2 Devyatis in the grave. He doesn't really have that much, I'm going to be honest. His graveyard's kind of barren. His graveyard be looking kind of barren, I'm not going to lie. So now we're going to go for Big Welcome. And this is where Ecclesia is really powerful now, because we can go for Big Welcome. We're going to summon out the Lady from the deck in attack position. We're going to bring Ecclesia back to hand to be recycled later in the game, and then our Lovely is going to activate to... We can either pop Fairy Tail Snow, or we can pop the card in his hand, and to be honest, I'm going to pop the card in his hand. I'm not too worried about Fairy Tail Snow. So we're going to set Welcome Labrynth back to the field, generating crazy amount of advantage here. We're just keeping so much advantage. We're going to destroy the Dark Spirit's Mastery that we had in his hand. I don't know if that's any good in the grave, is it? I don't know what you would do with this card. Sure. Sure thing, buddy. I'm going to go Dogmatika Punishment now. We're going to target the Fairy Tail Snow. That's going to activate the Lady. Lady then sets another trap from deck of our choice. It does mean that he can use his Fairy Tail Snow to flip us, but I really don't care about that. I don't think that's nearly big enough a deal for us to worry about. I'm going to set the Destructive Kuruma Cannon. Dogmatika Punishment. We're going to send ourselves a Skull Knight so that we have that engraved to proc whenever we want to destroy one of his cards. And it's setting up all of these fallback plans and these additional resources in places where sort of inaccessible to your opponent that makes this so powerful. Man, there's so much. We have so much we can do. It is actually unreal the amount that we can do right now. Ecclesia comes out. We're going to grab ourselves the Fleur-de-Lis this time. I guess we're summon you in attack mode, right? Yeah, I can. Perfect. 29-15. So we don't have Lethal yet. But that's okay. Going to activate the Lively Labyrinth. We're going to set a card from the graveyard back to the field. We're actually going to set Imperm. As boring as it sounds, we are going to set Imperm. Because I think we have Lethal. I could be wrong. We're going to activate Welcome Labyrinth. We have 3k, 45, 65, 74. Yeah, we've got easy lethal here. Literally just going to summon Ariana in attack mode. Ariana will search for yet another card, right? Which is insane. We get to grab, what are we going to grab? The field spell? We might as well. We might as well. Like, whenever you start doing plays just because, that's when you know that your deck's maybe a little bit strong, right? Into the battle phase, and we're just going to swing for game. Easy as that. Oh, hang on, he has, I suppose he does technically have Snow to protect himself from lethal, doesn't he? Yeah, because he can resummon Snow twice, and he can start flipping our cards and shit. So yeah, maybe it isn't game. He probably has a way to stop us from going for lethal here. Yeah, Fairy Tail Snow, gonna summon Snow and flip our lovely face down, I would imagine. Because this can't be targeted anyway. So banish 7, summon Snow. That's okay. Summon the Snow, that's fine. Going to target our lovely, flipping us face down. And that's annoying. If it wasn't flipping this face down, I could have returned that back to hand and gone for lethal anyway. But yeah, because it isn't, basically, it means that I need to actually fight it. I don't know why he would summon it in defense when, like, he's got more attack points than my monsters. That's a bit of a silly move, in my opinion. You could activate it the game, but it would be stupid. You can take this hit. It's only 1500. You can take that hit. It's fine. Oh, I can't even, oh, because I flipped you up this turn. Okay, so we don't have Lovely going into this next turn. That is not that big a deal. We still have Big Welcome Engraved to bounce. We have this to pop, this to negate, this to flip. We have Cross Out in case he does anything stupid. We've got Lady to set up additional advantage. We've got Ariana to draw additional cards. It's just silly. And even Fleur de Lis, if he does anything based on the extra deck, Fleur de Lis comes out, negates some bullshit, and loving it. It really is just that silly. So what's our opponent doing? I mean, yeah, there you go. Scoop City. And that's how most matches go. It's just that easy. Let's get into the deck profile. Alright, so here's the deck profile. This is the exact deck that we were just using in that live game that we just did. And the deck overall is really, really good. Honestly, I think a lot of the utility, maybe with this particular version, there could be slight sort of tweaks and adjustments and things, but I really do think that Nadir's Servant in particular and Dogmatika Punishment in particular are extremely powerful cards, and I feel like the utility that they bring with utilizing the extra deck to much greater effect, I honestly really like it. I think it patches a hole and bit of an issue that I had with Dogmatika, or sorry, that I had with Labrynth, in that Labrynth doesn't really do much if it's going second. So I think the two massive changes to that are going to be the Dogmatika cards and our Triple Tactics Thrust, which is an insane card, full stop, but especially in any trap-based strategy. So Triple Tactics Thrust is an absolute godsend. Nadir's Servant, Dogmatika Punishment, all phenomenal cards, utilizing all of this, what would be empty space, in order to get some serious breaking power. Like these three cards in particular, being able to pop a bunch of cards going second. Then you have Garura, which will draw you additional cards going first. You've got the protection in the form of Wind Pegasus. You've got the negate with the aggregator. It's just silly. And then you have Chaos Angel, which can actually be summoned in the deck, right? So we're going to go through the deck here card for card, just so that we're all on the same page. We all know exactly what it is we're looking at. We have so we're going to separate it out into sections, right? We're going to do section at a time. We're going to talk about Labrynth first. And more specifically, we're going to talk about the furniture first, right? So Labrynth is all about their trap cards and summoning out their big bad monsters from the deck. How do you actually do that? Well, to get the traps onto the field more consistently, you're going to be primarily using your Torby and your Chandelier. So Torby and Chandelier both have the effect where they can send themselves from hand or field to the graveyard, as well as discarding an additional card to set any Labrynth normal trap directly to the field, right? Or any Labrynth spell or trap directly to the field. So you can set up your field spell, you can set up your welcome, your big welcome, whatever. Right, so they'll both set those up pretty much perfectly by themselves, and they also later on will replace themselves. If a monster ever leaves the field by the effect of a normal trap, the Torby will special summon itself to the field, and the Chandelier will add itself back to hand. So they set up your plays and will add themselves back to the hand or back to the field later to be reused as the duel progresses, helping you continually build and maintain advantage. Coup Clock is the exception to the regular furniture rule because this guy doesn't find you cards, but what he does do is that if he has a quick effect where you can discard it, and during that turn, if you control a Labrynth monster, you can activate a normal trap that you set that turn. It means that you can play on turn 0 basically, right? During your opponent's turn, if you're able to put a Labrynth monster on board, which we'll get to in a second, as well as having a furniture piece, it means your furniture piece can set a card directly to the field, and the Coup Clock will make that card activatable. But the stipulation is, of course, that you need to control a Labrynth monster. And how do you get one out on turn 0? Well, that's where his second effect comes in, where if a monster is sent from your hand to the graveyard to activate its effect, i.e. your furniture monsters, you then get to activate this card's second effect to either add it back to your hand or special summon it to your field. So if you have Coup Clock and a furniture piece, what you will do is you'll activate Coup Clock to send it. Fine. Then you will activate the furniture to send that to grave to set a card to the field. Coup Clock then will activate to summon itself back to the field, and then whatever card you set from the deck is now activatable. You can flip up that welcome or that big welcome or whatever it is that you set in order to summon out your big bat monsters from the deck. And what monsters can you summon from the deck? Well, one of the smaller ones is Ariana, the Labrynth Servant. This card on summon will search your deck for another Labrynth card. So if you are playing on turn 0 and you're playing before on turn 1 if it's your opponent's turn, this is a very good one because it will help patch holes in your hand and set you up well for going into turn 2. So that's really good. Alternatively, it does have the ability as well, if a monster leaves the field due to the effect of a normal trap, you get to draw a card, and then you can either special summon a fiend from hand, or set a spell or trap from hand, or do none of the above, just draw one. So that's up to you. Then you've got the two big bad ladies of the deck. You have Lovely Labrynth of the Silver Castle and Lady Labrynth of the Silver Castle. So they're both very different cards though. So Lovely Labrynth of the Silver Castle, first of all, while it's face up, your opponent cannot activate monster effects in response to your normal traps. That's huge. That removes an entire section of negation that would normally be a problem, so they cannot respond with monsters to your normal traps. That's pretty big. Then you can use each of the following effects once per turn. Number 1, you can activate its effect during your turn to take any normal trap in your graveyard and set it to the field. Again, incredible at maintaining card advantage, resetting your powerful trap cards like your D-Barrier, your Infinite Impermanence, your Punishment, all of these ridiculously powerful trap cards. The Lovely Labrynth can help reset them and reuse them every single turn. Then its other effect, where if a monster leaves the field by the effect of a normal trap card, very consistent theme through the deck, you get to essentially either destroy a card in your opponent's hand at random, or you can pick a card in their field and destroy that instead. So basically it's got removal, it has recycling, and protection. Really powerful card. Love this card. And then you've got Lady, which is slightly different. This is closer to the idea of a boss monster. So while you have a set card, your opponent cannot target this card with card effects, and it cannot be destroyed by card effects. So it's a 3000 attack, untargetable, and indestructible. That's pretty powerful, right? Very difficult to get rid of for a lot of decks, especially considering how easy it is to summon. Not only can you summon it through your trap cards, through which there's a plethora of ways to activate them, like we've already talked about, this card itself, during the turn on which you activate a Labrynth card or a normal trap, can simply special summon itself from hand, which makes it insanely easy to summon, right? You don't even need to worry about it. If you have it in hand, you can summon it. If you have it in deck, you can summon it. It's basically always around. If you activate a normal trap while this card is on the field, you can quick effect chain to that trap card to set any normal trap directly from your deck to the field. Now that really is incredible. So it means that if you have this card in the field, you activate a normal trap, or even if your opponent activates a normal trap, you can chain to that trap and you can set anything from the deck. You can set a D-Barrier, you can set a Destructive Cannon, you can set Punishment, you can set whatever, right? You can set all of these cards directly off of Lady Labrynth's effect, which makes her incredibly powerful. And again, 3k, untargetable, indestructible, and the easy summoning conditions, all in all makes this card very powerful. So that's how the Labrynth monsters work, so let's get into their back row. We of course have the field spell, which has two different effects. Basically, if you activate a Labrynth trap card, or a Welcome Labrynth normal trap card, you will pop a card upon resolution. Or if you activate a non-Labrynth normal trap, you get to resurrect a fiend from your hand to graveyard. So it means that if they manage to deal with your Lovely or your Lady, you simply bring them back. It's that easy. Then we have Welcome Labrynth and Big Welcome Labrynth. So both of these cards will special summon from your deck a Labrynth monster. Big Welcome Labrynth, upon you summoning the monster, will demand you return a monster you control back to the hand, but this can also summon from graveyard. So Welcome Labrynth will summon only from deck, and Big Welcome can summon from deck or graveyard, but you have to bounce a card, a monster on your field, back to the hand afterwards. That is actually rather advantageous, and we'll talk about it in a second. So Welcome Labrynth as well, apart from just special summoning a monster from the deck, if a monster ever leaves the field by the effect of a normal trap, while this is in the graveyard, you can add this back to your hand. But you can only use one of its effects per turn. So it resets itself back to, sorry, you don't add it back to hand, apologies, you set it to the field again. So you can recycle it and continuously loop it and summon out monsters over and over again. The Big Welcome slightly different, in that while it's in the graveyard, you can banish it to target a monster on the field. If you don't control a level 8 or higher fiend, it has to be one of your monsters. If you do control a level 8 or higher fiend, you can target one of your opponent's monsters or target one of their cards, bounce it back to hand. That simple. Now, the reason that being forced to return one of your monsters back to the hand is advantageous in this deck is, of course, because it triggers the effect of cards like Lovely Labrynth at the Silver Castle, of your Ariana, of your Tourbillon Chandelier, all of these cards that require a monster leave the field by the effect of a normal trap. Well, this is the effect of a normal trap, so bouncing it back to your hand will trigger all of these effects, which makes it very powerful. And also the additional removal in its effect makes it even more so. So yeah, the Labrynth cards, all in all, exceptionally powerful, and that's the Labrynth cards being as good as they are is why you're able to abuse things like the barrier, things like the Karma Cannon. But before we get into the generic back row options, we're going to talk about the Dogmatika cards. So of course, in terms of monsters, we have the Ecclesia and the Fleur-de-Lis. Ecclesia is kind of the centerpiece of the deck. Whenever this card is summoned, you get to grab a Dogmatika card and add it to your hand, which is really straightforward. It can special summon itself to the field so long as there's a monster that was special summoned from the extra deck on the field. Now that can either be yours or it can be your opponent's. So if you want to make that a little bit more consistent, what you could perhaps do is include Salamangreat Almirage in your extra deck. It's not something that we did, and the Aggregator never really came up, if I'm being honest. I'm not a big fan of this card. You can maybe replace the Aggregator or one copy of Chaos Angel with your Salamangreat Almirage. That basically means that if you ever normal summon a monster, like a Torby or Kuklok, maybe this isn't the best example because Chandelier has 1500 attack, but you know what I mean. If there's a monster on the field that was summoned from the extra deck, Ecclesia can special summon itself. Now, of course, that can be your opponent's as well. That means that you don't have to dedicate your normal summon to it, but given how popular Labrynth is, you may end up wanting to do that anyways. Now, what makes this card actually so good? Well, it's the fact that it's searchable off of Nadir's Servant. So this card will allow you to send from your extra deck to the graveyard a monster, to add a Dogmatika monster from your deck to your hand, or deck or graveyard to your hand, whose attack points is equal to or less than the monster that you sent. So to add Ecclesia to your hand, you send a monster from your extra deck to the graveyard who has at least 1500 attack points. That's going to be, depending on whether or not you're going first or second, Garura for going first, or any of these other monsters for going second, right? And the reason for it is that Garura, when sent to the graveyard, these cards all exist only for Nadir's Servant and Dogmatika Punishment. This card, when sent to the graveyard, will allow you to draw a card. This one, when sent to the grave, will allow you to banish yourself from the grave whenever you want to pop a back row. This one will banish yourself from the grave to pop a monster, and end this, upon being sent to the graveyard, so as a trigger effect, will then pop any card on the field. So Endis is a little bit more versatile because it can be used during your opponent's turn if it's sent, but these guys are good to hold on to in your graveyard in case you need to get rid of a Floodgate or anything like that on your opponent's field. So all of these cards, very powerful targets in the graveyard. You of course also have the Wind Pegasus, which is an oddball in terms of how it works. So this one, if your opponent destroys a card you control, you can basically banish this to target a card your opponent controls and shuffle it back into the deck. So it's a bit of a different in terms of how it works, but it's also still very powerful. All of these cards can be sent off Nadir's Servant to search for Dogmatika Ecclesia. So not only are you searching for a powerful monster, you're also sending a powerful monster to gain additional effects off of this. The only downside is that it locks you out of using your extra deck for the rest of the turn. But whatever, you're not using your extra deck in Labrynth, so it's not like it matters, right? So this searches for Ecclesia, and Ecclesia will either search for Fleur de Lis or Dogmatika Punishment. So Fleur de Lis, basically, if there's a monster on the field that was special summoned from the extra deck, you can special summon this card directly from your hand, and then if you control another Dogmatika monster, you can target a monster on the field and negate its effects. So it's like a quick effect negate, assuming you are under the conditions to special summon it, right? Which isn't that tough in most matchups. It also, if a Dogmatika monster declares an attack while this is on the field, all Dogmatika monsters you currently control permanently gain 500 attack. So that's pretty big, right? Because even just with one attack in, suddenly this is 3,000 and this is 2,000, right? And then if you manage to get 2 attacks, you're like, okay, well now that's 3,500. That's a Chaos Angel right there. And it scales pretty fucking quickly. So it does. Another thing about Ecclesia I should mention very briefly is that it can't be destroyed by battle by an extra deck monster. So if this finds itself suddenly at 2,000, 2,500, 3k off of Fleur de Lis effect, suddenly this is not the easiest thing in the world to get rid of. Especially for a level 4 special summon from hand, right? Nuts. And then Dogmatika Punishment is of course the last remaining card for Dogmatika. Basically, you will target a face-up monster in the field, send a monster from your extra deck to the graveyard who has equal to or more attack than the target, and destroy the target. And again, it's valuable not only because it's removing a monster from the field by the effect of a normal trap, which makes it synergize perfectly with all your Labrynth cards, it's searchable off of Ecclesia and the Dear Servant, but also it's sending these powerful targets to the graveyard. All of these guys grant you additional effects in the grave, and if your opponent's monster is just too big for all of these guys, because they aren't the biggest monsters in the world, you do have the 5-headed dragon, which gives you the ability to destroy anything with up to 5,000 attack points. You can cut this guy down to 1 if you wanted to include some shenanigans in the extra deck. Maybe you want to put in some targets you can special summon yourself off of these guys. It's entirely up to you what you want to do with the extra deck for the most part. But I was running 2 500 dragon just in case I'm up against something like Kystera and they want to snipe one copy of it, because it could make getting rid of their Arise Heart very difficult then. But yeah, that's the Dogmatika cards, and it may sound like we're going over around this sort of like as about face, but that's the actual core engine cards. Now that we sort of know how the deck itself works, let's talk about the cards around that. So we do of course have triple Maxi, triple Ash Blossom, double Call by, single Crossout. Mandatory cards, have to play them in basically any deck that wants to special summon even a little bit to play around Maxi. And Maxi itself, of course, is an automatic win in some matchups, so yeah. Then we have triple Tactics Thrust. This card is insane in any normal trap-based strategy. Basically, during the turn in which your opponent has activated a monster effect, be it Maxi, be it Ash Blossom, be it Gamma, be it whatever, right? If they've activated a monster during that turn, you can use this to grab any normal spell or trap, and either A, if your opponent does not control a monster, set it to your field and use it next turn, or B, if your opponent does control a monster, you can add it to your hand and then use it. So Thrust is insane. Going first, it allows you access to Dimensional Barrier, to Daruma Cannon, to Dogmatika Punishment, to your Labrynth cards, to all of these incredible cards going first. Going second, it gives you access not only to all of those, but to decent board breakers and super powerful board breakers, like Infinite Impermanence, Triple Tactics Talent, and Lightning Storm. Very powerful cards that you can utilize off Triple Tactics Thrust. And because you're playing 3 copies of this, you only need to play 1 of these cards that may otherwise, in other situations, be detrimental to run multiple copies of. So it does, Thrust definitely does make the deck a lot more versatile. I love Thrust in general, but in any trap-based strategy, it's a must-play. It really is. This card's incredible. So yes, Tactics grants you one of these 3 effects. You can either draw 2 cards, take control of an opponent's monster, or look at your opponent's hand and send one of their cards back to the deck. But you can only use it during a phase in which your opponent has activated a monster effect. So if you were to activate Nadir Servant and they hit you with Ash Blossom, well, now your Triple Tactics Talent can be used to use any of those 3 effects. Lightning Storm, if you control no face-up cards, you can either destroy all of their attack position monsters or destroy all of their spells and traps. Pretty straightforward, both of which are excellent cards going second in particular. Then we have D-Barrier, which will allow you to declare Ritual, Fusion, Synchro Exceed, or Pendulum, and until the end of that turn, monsters of that card type cannot be summoned, or special summoned. So Debarrier is incredibly powerful, especially against any deck that wants to use its extra deck. You can shut down an entire summoning mechanic for a turn, which does ultimately lead to a lot of surrenders. Like if you're playing against a branded deck and you call Fusion, what the hell are they going to do, right? So it does lead to a lot of easy wins. We have Infinite Impermanence, of course, a real staple card. We all know what that does. Daruma Cannon. This is the last card I'll talk about. I've talked about everything else. This is the last card. This is your out to Pearly, right? So its first effect, change as many monsters in the field to face down defense position as possible. Then, if either player controls a face-up monster, they must send all face-up monsters they control to the graveyard. So this is split into two parts, right? So let's say they have an X-Pearly Noir, right? X-Pearly Noir, of course, as a monster is unaffected by the first effect, because if it is five more materials, it's unaffected by activated effects. That's fair. It's not being flipped face down. But the second effect applies to the player, right? The player must send face-up monsters they control to the graveyard, which means that Noir is not immune. It's not going to get flipped face down, and because it's not flipped face down, the opponent's monster must send it to the graveyard themselves. So you're getting rid of the Noir full stop. So that's definitely very, very powerful. And in most decks, again, in any link-based strategy, of course, link monsters cannot be flipped face down. So any link-based strategy, they lose all of their monsters. And even in most other decks, if you're going against something that relies upon having monsters in the field for extra deck summons or whatever, like an Exceed-based thing like Kashtira or Sword Soul, who need their monsters face up for synchro summons, whatever, Daruma Cannon flipping those monsters all face down makes it impossible for them to access their extra deck, and generally speaking, they just can't play the game. So Daruma Cannon is insane in general. I love this card. I really, really do. I'm so glad I crafted it. This is your out to Noir. So whenever you're playing the Pearly matchup, just know that you need to get access to this card as soon as you possibly can. Or Debarrier, of course. Debarrier, locking them out of Exceed also is an instant win. But Daruma Cannon, if you're going second, or if they did manage to set up your board, or they negated your Debarrier or whatever, Daruma Cannon is like plan B, right? So Debarrier and Daruma Cannon, that's how you're beating Pearly. And that's pretty much the whole deck. The extra deck here is purely, again, we've already talked about pretty much everything. Chaos Angel is here because we can technically summon it, but I never did. It's not really that good because we can only use its dark effect. But yeah, the extra deck almost entirely is just made of monsters that are super beneficial to have in the graveyard, so you can utilize additional benefits off of Nadir Servant and Dogmatika Punishment. So that's the whole deck. Again, if you guys have played Dogmatika Labrynth, maybe you have secret sauce, some tech or anything like that maybe you want to share to improve the deck overall, you can either leave it in the comments below or join the Discord to share your ideas. We are all about sharing ideas in the Discord, and this isn't a deck that I'm super familiar with, so I fully expect there to be someone out there who's shaking their head and has ideas. So go ahead, share them, be nice, but share them. And yeah, subscribe if you're new to the channel, if you want to catch anything else that we're covering as time goes on. New video every single day, or a new live stream, whatever it is that happens on that day, but something up every day. You can follow us on all of our other platforms, on our Facebook, Twitter, TikTok. All of that is in the description below. Our Discord's in the description below, as well as the ability to join as a member. So if you want to join the channel as a member, show additional support, help us get everything running and pumping smoothly, you can of course hit the join button below or the link in the description. That's pretty much everything I have to say, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.